searching for answers.
Here are today's top stories.
It's been over 24 hours.
And the local news.
What we see are a lot of things that are going on the earth.
This is Art of Heaven News Talk.
Broadcasting live from WHPC Studios in Garden City, New York, this is Art of Heaven News Talk, where we deliver global, national, and local news through the lens of faith, comparing these stories to Scripture. I'm your host, Johnny Brummett, and joining me today are my co-hosts, pastoral intern Dan Bartucci and media personality Christina Orlando, back for the second week in a row.
We're back.
What's up, Johnny?
If you want to join the conversation, lines are open at 516-572-7440. I am good. It's good to be back in the studio.
It's good to be back. We're in fake spring officially in New York.
Fake spring.
Fake spring.
I mean, what is the weather playing games for? Right?
Keeping us on our toes.
Seriously.
I got two closets simultaneously that I'm using. Spring and winter.
Well, let's jump right into the biggest news story. Big news this week. Yesterday, the U.S. Department of Justice filed a lawsuit against Apple alleging the tech giant violated antitrust laws in the smartphone market. I don't know, they're going hard at him, it seems.
Yep.
You know, I'm for a free market, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we all are. I definitely am too. I think my first reaction is like, who's complaining? I don't think the Apple users are complaining that they're having a poor experience because Apple has the dominated technology on the market. Look, they built the best product. It's affected everyone's lives, hopefully in the most positive way. But I don't feel it's something where people don't have free access to, right? Yes, the iPhone's expensive. You can fall into any, cellular retailer right now and they'll give you the iPhone for free, right? This is not... I grew up in an era where... the Ticketmaster anti-fraud case goes in, right, where we couldn't, as poor kids, Johnny, you and I are around the same age, like we couldn't get access to concerts and bands, and, Pearl Jam took them on. That's an antitrust case to me, but this is I'm just not sure what the base of it. They have the product, they have some of the most secure technology. They have technology that's better people's, folks with disabilities, people that have trouble with vision, hearing. There's products and tools.
They have animojis.
That too.
I'd like to see some other companies come with something like that.
Yeah.
Basically, it's not the 1800s.
Right.
There's not this huge gap. So I love Apple products. And I'd say leave them alone. And what's funny is if somebody thinks that they can come out with some better products...
Please do.
But
yes.
Guess what? They're going to have to code them on Microsoft or Apple products, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just crazy. So we'll see how this plays out. But Apple definitely is saying that they're going to vigorously defend themselves.
Yeah, and again, I think they should. I think they have every right to. They've built a product. They've dominated the market. That if I had to send a message today with my most personal secure information, I would use iMessage before I used anything else. But look, if the government wants something to do and you want a big company to go after in the United States, maybe we could start with Boeing. That might be a good place to start, where maybe greed has gotten in the way of safety. Sorry to
yeah, but what if I want to start my own phone company? And I have to go up against Apple. That's high stakes. Maybe this will help me out. Maybe I have more of a shot.
That's what they're claiming, though. The attorneys are saying Apple has locked in its customers into the iPhone while locking its competitors out of the market.
You could say that's just being an effectively successful business.
Sure.
Well, yeah, exactly. What
you could say that.
What happened to vertical and horizontal integration?
So successful.
So let's demand that KFC unlocks their recipe and they give it to Church's Chicken or the Raising Cane's. Let's go into McDonald's and demand that we get a Whopper instead of a Big Mac. Like, I think there's some lines to be drawn here that we need. I just can't see that this is one of them.
Seriously. So on the other side of the world, there's some controversy going on. A little bit of a tougher topic. Here at Art of Heaven News, we're going to handle it. But maybe you can shed some light on this too, Dan. What's going on in England with a church in England?
Yeah, there was a case recently of a migrant seeking asylum in the UK. And originally the application was denied. He had gone to a church and said he accepted the Church of England and was now a Christian and following Christ and following the Church of England. And then when he reapplied, his asylum was approved. Now, I mean, we don't know all the details where if in fact that conversion was it, but we're getting into some really, really, I would just say, really dangerous territory when we try to associate political asylum with salvation, right? They are not in the same, and I think we're blurring some lines there too, right?
Yeah, the Bible, I mean, Jesus specifically said, I was talking to my fiance Noelle about this earlier, give to Caesar what is Caesar's and give to God what is God's. So there is a separation, and especially the followers of Christ, they were subject to the governments, the local governments.
Yeah. So the government kind of came back and they were pushing back against the church, on the Church of England, saying, hey, there needs to be standards of those people that are coming to follow you. And I kind of agree with the Archbishop of Canterbury had said in this case, which is, look, we can't judge the heart of people. And that's not, right? We're becoming God, and really only God can judge. And we're not in the position as human beings to save others. But again, we can't equate this, right? We have to be open. We have to be, as believers, we have to lead people into that relationship with Christ. We can't demand it. And certainly, I think the most wrong thing we can do...
Prove it.
...is prove it. Or give somebody carte blanche then to say, oh, you accepted Christ or you're going to church. You must be an okay citizen. Let's be honest with ourselves. A lot of bad things have happened in the world and have been perpetrated by people that have said they are Christian. We have to acknowledge that fact, right? It's not this rubber stamp that gets put on your forehead when you come into a relationship with Christ or you're going to a church. I joked with Christina earlier, right? And I want to give credit to this quote to my friend Nathan Gassaway, which said, you know, being in a church doesn't make you any more of a Christian than standing in a garage makes you a car.
Woo.
So we have to be careful with being bred. And now, at our core, it would be great to believe that when we accept Christ, we are changed. We do believe that the conviction we talked about last week of the Holy Spirit will make us better. We're still sinners at heart. It's not a free, let's say, get out of jail card, right?
Yes.
Seriously, the leaders in this church came out and made a statement saying, how do you assess something that is in somebody's heart?
Yeah.
Right? So you got to give people a chance. I mean, yeah, it's a tough situation.
It is. I mean,
they got to protect their country too. I mean, there's this one bad case of that guy coming in from Afghanistan and then committed violent crimes afterwards, right? So he did a chemical attack in London.
Yeah. Yeah. So you'd hope that people aren't going to misuse this, but some people in desperate situations, if they figure out, hey, I'm going to get a pass at asylum if I go to this church.
Right.
But also you hope that people can be changed and that there are some people seeking asylum, that the church is the right place to start and they get embraced, right? There's a lot of good Catholic and Christian charity in the world and outreach. This is just a situation where it can't be equating one with the other. They're just not equal things.
Yeah, let's just recap the situation here. I mean, it's a fair conversation to have, I believe. When the guy came in, he was denied. Then he went and got baptized, claimed he was a Christian, and then he was accepted. Then he turned around and committed a chemical attack in London. Terrorist attack. So
taking advantage of the system.
Exactly. That's what it is.
For sure.
Yeah. So let's take a look at some news in our own backyard right here.
New York City!
All right, so leave it to New York to come out with something so ridiculous, or is it so genius? Right? The first ever Cry Spa.
Woo! Sign me up.
What does that even mean, Christina?
It's a place where you could pay a business so you can just go in there and have your own private cry room. And then after you cry, you just get back to work, wherever you were doing. You know, normal stuff.
This is the sad topic. This is sad.
It is sad.
Okay, it's up on West 71st Street, and this is a real thing, a sob parlor, right? The owner came up with this idea when he was on a treadmill in the gym, and he was listening to a Mariah Carey song, I think, and he just started crying, and he's like, you know what, we need a place in New York to go cry.
Was it Mariah Carey that made him cry, or was it...
She sings some pretty emotional songs.
Yeah, I mean,
And
Full
being
respect
at the
to
gym
Mariah.
is
I mean, yeah.
sometimes not the most fun. So I get it.
You said something before, Christine, about you don't have time.
I think, we're New Yorkers, and I don't know if you guys have ever worked in New York City or lived in New York City. You don't have time to feel things. We were saying, you got to schedule that you got to pencil that in your itinerary to cry. Because the pace of life is so quick that sometimes you have these moments where you stop and think, oh yeah, I haven't cried in a while, or I haven't really fully felt my emotions. But I wonder, my thought is, when we have our Christian faith, we have church, we have small groups, we have places where we can go to and really head on deal with our emotions. But for people who don't have an outlet, maybe this is just an expression of them desperately needing that outlet.
Yeah, I just feel that enables more isolation and maybe makes a bad situation worse. And maybe we have to kind of take the stigma away. I know it's joked about a lot, like you can't cry in the workplace, and there's no crying in baseball, and all those analogies that we've heard throughout throughout the years.
Yes.
But sometimes there is emotion in this world. It's not easy. We cover a ton of stories here that aren't, feel good type stories. So I think my fear, yes, New Yorkers will adapt anything such as this. I remember on 34th Street, they used to have nap pods.
I remember those.
Okay.
No time to nap. We're New Yorkers.
There's a lot of weird things you can pay for in New York. Let's just acknowledge that, right? There's a lot of weird experiences you can have.
True.
I just feel for people that are leaving this in a bad headspace, and they go in a private room and just feel those emotions, and then they go back into the world where you're not seen in New York. We've all walked down 6th Avenue and, or anywhere in the city. You won't be seen. So I think we need to embrace more opportunities and encourage people to be in community, to be with others, to share what you're going through. It sounds terrible. I'm sure they're going to make a ton of money, though.
Picture yourself in New York City. I lived in New York City, so I get it. There's not many places to get away. And I want you to picture yourself, Dan. Picture yourself.
I cry a lot, so this is fine.
All right? You're at a stressful job, right? The owners explain you can go into this sob parlor, and for $20 you can release some emotional buildup and book a 30-minute appointment in your own private cry room. You go in there. Well, I'm wondering this. What happens if I go in there and start laughing?
That's probably good.
Is there security? They're going to kick me out?
Some cries sound like laughs, so you never know.
Or is that my defense mechanism? When I want to cry, I laugh. I don't know.
I'm really torn on this one. If it works for people, great. I think it's a really sad thing to think of somebody crying. Like, you wouldn't want your friend, you wouldn't want your fiance to be crying somewhere alone, right? You'd want to be there, right? It's sad to think about, but it's New York. We just talked about free business. We want Apple to make their phones. If people are going to make crying pods and make a business for it, so be it.
That's a good point, though, because I think if we were more accepting of people displaying their sad emotions in front of others, this might not be an issue. I remember once, the only time I've ever cried at work, it was my cat died. My cat Oliver is my best friend. And I took 2 days off of work. I was very distraught about this. And then I came back into work and I was thinking about it. And then I'm in the elevator with my coworker. He was this big, tough finance guy. And I just start bursting into tears. Yeah. And he's so uncomfortable. He's are you okay? And I was my cat died. I could have used a cryopod.
Yeah, it's hard. It's certainly hard in the workplace. I think there's so many connotations that come from it, right? I mean, you want to make a really awkward conversation at work, tell somebody you're trying to become a pastor, right? Things get real quiet in a hurry. So I don't think we have, and we're so careful today in society about respecting everyone's identities and their beliefs, but yet it's so frowned upon when people have real, raw human emotion and they need comfort and care.
Oh, I respect it. I love when people open up. Actually, first thing I say is thank you for sharing this. You reminded me though, the one time I actually did cry at work and I bounced.
Share this.
I did. I didn't know I was gonna get into this today, but yeah, this was almost about 18 years ago. One of my best friends that I literally was working on a project with in the music industry, and I dropped him off at the airport to go to Puerto Rico to visit his mom. He died in a riptide over there.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I found out I'm dating myself here on MySpace. And through text and everything, I found out he was gone. And it just hit me. And I sat there at my desk. And I was like, I'm punching out, bam. And I just bounced, you know? I still remember that day. And I'm not even a crier. Like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't think, you know, the story goes that I didn't even cry as a baby. I was pretty good, I guess.
Wow.
Like, so I don't know what that means. What does that mean, Dan?
I don't know. I think knowing you're being raised in California takes you a little bit more stable in your emotions than those of us that were born and raised in like Queens or New York. I think it's tough. Like I would be almost mortified to cry at work. Like I didn't have a crying experience, but I can share. You know, I was at a job for 8 years. I didn't talk to anybody about faith. And I remember posting something after I gave my 2 weeks notice, and I used a Pastor Tim Keller quote.
Wow.
And I had just thrown it in there because it was natural for me. And I figured, hey, I'm on the way out the door. Like, no one, you know, if somebody's going to call me a Jesus freak now, so be it. But I posted that. And then my messages just kept coming in. You know Tim Keller? Like, you read Tim Keller? Like, I love Tim Keller. I serve at my church. And there was like 10, 12 people that I worked with for years. And we didn't bridge that. So I think we have to embrace who we are as humans. We can't do this alone.
That's right.
Please don't cry alone. If you can avoid it at all costs, I would hate to think somebody I love or somebody I know or even somebody I work with has a moment crying alone.
Yeah, don't go to a pod. Go to someone close to you. Even if it's uncomfortable.
Go to the sob parlor. No, I'm serious.
Was it $20?
Listen, I'm about living life. $20, half an hour.
Okay.
I'm
They have a
about
massage
living.
chair?
I'm trying
Maybe.
things. I'm living
Starbucks
life.
is going to open in this soon too. By the way, on your way out, you can pre-order your latte after you.
I want to go check it out. You know, this business, I think it's going to be molded and shaped into something better because it's interesting that you have to sign a waiver acknowledging that you won't be receiving psychological support or counseling. So it's nothing to do with that. They want to cover their tracks, basically. And
so if you have a cry and it puts you in a really bad spot and then you leave there, you don't blame the... See that?
Right.
I'm telling you, this is not
there
a great idea.
There is an on-call licensed therapist.
Okay.
So I feel like they're going to work it out somehow. They should.
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
You know?
You can use MySpace on your Apple iPhone without an issue. If you need to you can have a virtual therapy appointment. Look, again, I'm sorry I'm stuck on the technology.
Yeah,
I'll get over it.
It's almost like these prayer apps that are coming out. Like, it just sounds weird to me, I'll believe. Like, I don't need an app to pray, but I could see why they kind of set a template for it and stuff.
You wouldn't use it at all?
I don't know. I actually haven't had this conversation with anybody. It just came out on the air right now.
Christina?
I keep seeing ads for the man who plays Jesus from The Chosen asking me to sign up for an app.
Yeah.
And I haven't clicked on it.
And Marky Mark.
Mark
Wahlberg's on the platform too. So
you know what? I have seen that one.
So if you're of my generation and Marky Mark, right, he'll read to you the Bible. I think if it gets you access, if it opens a door, then so be it.
Yeah.
I'm willing to give it a try. I'm not against it. I just kind of am slow to step into it. You know what I mean?
I hear that.
I just want to talk to the man upstairs, like one-on-one,
sure.
like, yo, you know, is that cool to talk to?
That works. But I mean, I think the gentleman from the show, I forget his name, but yeah, that's like a lot of people's images of Jesus, and his voice is almost like, I kind of feel Jesus is reading to me at night. And if that works and that opens up a relationship for you, it's not the worst
God could
thing.
use it.
Yeah.
All right. So some other news came out about Darryl Strawberry. Right? You're listening to Art Heaven News Talk here on 90.3 WHPC. If you want to join the conversation, the number's 516-572-7440. So Darryl Strawberry had a heart attack, unfortunately. Very, very sad.
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
it's I grew up in an era of Darryl Strawberry. I grew up just outside of Citi Field, and he's become a pastor now, right?
Yep. And he came a long ways, because I remember growing up in the 90s, this man was addicted to drugs and alcohol. He missed the World Series in 1998, I believe, due to it. And, you know, now he is a man of the cloth, or preaching the gospel everybody should be doing, you know. But it works for him, and yeah, the best part is that he he posted on Instagram,
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah, so there's actually some really incredible news. His heart is at total restoration. So he posted this, praising God for his amazing grace and loving mercy in saving my life this evening from a heart attack. I am so happy and honored to report that all is well. So thankful for the medical team and staff at St. Joseph West in Lake St. Louis, shout out, for responding so quickly and bringing me through a stent procedure that has brought my heart to total restoration. Your prayers are so absolutely appreciated as I continue to recover in Jesus' name. Hashtag saved by grace.
Good for him.
Yeah, that's pretty big right there. Because he turned something that was tragic, could have taken his life, and he used it like that.
Yeah.
You know, his platform. So definitely shout out to Darryl Strawberry.
Yes, get well soon.
Talking about turning a bad situation good.
For
you know?
sure.
Yeah. So there's another story that's quite interesting. I don't even know how I feel about this one either. And I'd love your opinion. Anybody listening can call. If you're listening, you can just dial 516-572-7440. This is Art of Heaven News Talk, where we tackle some hard topics and news stories here. A man received a pig's liver transplant. Recently, too, a guy received a pig's heart.
Yeah.
And I think he passed away shortly, 2 months after. But this one with the liver is a big story. Just came out this weekend. I don't know, would you put a pig's liver in your body to save yourself?
I probably have not thought of this question before today. Thankfully, have not been faced with that kind of question. I don't know where I'm at on this, Johnny. I think my fear is it becomes a very, very slippery slope. And then where does it end, right? There are people already experimenting with neurochips, right? So we're putting technology in. Now we're putting animals in. This is something that can head downhill fast. I don't know where I stand from a Christian, from a believer. We're to live with all living animals, and I think this is a real dangerous one. I would hope more people become organ donors. Like, are we in a position where there's not enough humans donating, organs that we turn to this? I'm really torn.
Yo, so what's the interesting part is I think this liver is only meant to last 10 days. So they put it.
Oh, okay.
They put the liver into somebody as an experiment, basically, where they tested this person who had no brain function, and they put the liver in his body, and it actually worked. So they're claiming that this could be the start of harvesting animals, because this wasn't no ordinary pig. They genetically altered this pig to be able to. They took out a gene that makes the body reject the liver. So they took that gene out, and then they put this new pig's liver in there, and now the liver was accepted by this guy.
But he's not living, this man, or he was not living when they tried this.
No. It was only meant to try for 10 days.
Yeah.
The family.
So they are alive, but they have they said brain dead.
So again, I think we're starting to mess with humanity. We're starting to mess with the beauty and the divine nature of being created. It's I just don't think there's a place where this
This is not a popular opinion, because I think a lot of people might say, well, it might extend people's lives, it might add to quality of life, and why not explore the science? But for me to see genetically modified pig kidney being put into a human, I feel like we're messing with something that we don't know what we're really messing with.
Yeah.
And I feel like we are in some ways trying to play God, and we just don't know where that's going to lead. Like, we just don't know the consequences of, like, even with cloning and, like, creating, like, they can make your own twin out of your clone.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't think that's a good idea.
I definitely would not want two of me around.
So it's a no for Christina. Man.
I think it's one thing if you're challenged with it. I don't think we can. I just think this is going to lead into really unethical situations, and then where does it stop? Right? Where does it stop? Then we start genetically altering fetuses, so you can have the baby and the child that's where it'll go, though, right? In reality,
that's a line not to be crossed. Now that would be extreme, but you know what? I'm for it, dude. I think that if a pig's liver will make somebody live till they're 80, I think it'd be okay.
Yeah, I think it's tough, and I think it's a challenge until it hits you. We can be believers and embrace science and space. I don't want to come out here and say, hey, if you're Christian, you have to deny all this. God gave us these gifts and these brains, and we're alive here, and we're making strides to make human life better. And this, again, where do you stop it?
Yeah.
Where do you stop?
And also the ethics of treating the animals with dignity. If something's only being created just to be used, it's just, I don't know, you guys.
Yeah, and then it becomes a denominational belief issue, right? So for our friends that are Jewish and of Muslim belief, right, there are certain animals that cannot be touched. Yeah. So now you can save a Christian's life with a pig, but you can't save a Jewish person or a Muslim person. So we really start getting into some messy topics that I don't know.
Yeah, they won't touch or eat pork, let alone put a piece of a pig in some.
But Johnny, then why can't do it with other science, right? Why can't you use synthetic materials? Why can't we? It's still an evolving science. What are we? 90 years ago, the iron lung was the best thing that we had. So I think there's still hope for other parts of medical science that won't require us to genetically mutate animals.
Yeah,
that's a hope.
Hey, I
agree.
I don't know. I think that if each of us were in the position where we needed a liver, we might change our mind.
Maybe in 90 years, I'll be fully a pig. I'll just be all my parts.
Well,
I'll be here.
That's a good. I mean, you ever see the Twilight episode where the woman's had like 4 or 5 surgeries and the doctors and nurses are all masked, and they said, "Sorry, you have to live in a different community. The surgery didn't work." And the doctors and nurses are pigs. They have a pig face. And the woman's like a beautiful model. This is an amazing
This is a Twilight Zone episode. She's like gorgeous objectively, but they're like, "Oh, you're hideous."
Yes, and they have to move her to a community because they couldn't.
I'm gonna be that.
I'm gonna be dreaming about this tonight. Sadly, after this conference,
Twilight Zone has so many good episodes.
So many good ones. We could do a whole show on Twilight Zone episodes.
We could.
I think let's turn to some good in the world. How about that?
Yeah.
Is there any good in the world?
We are seeing some
good in the world.
All right, well, I have a personal story that just made my day. All right, I was driving early on the far side of town. I don't even know why I was there. The bank branch that I went to was closed, so I had to go all the way across town for some reason. Right?
Serendipity.
Yeah. Anyway, the corner over there, Hillside and New Hyde Park Road, there was a crossing guard dancing like she was having the time of her life.
Good for her.
On the street corner. I mean, we all know that from New York City, right? The traffic cop doing his thing, But this is right here, Long Island. The city's branching out to us, and I just made me think, I want to work like that woman.
Yeah.
Whatever I do.
You can't see me dancing. It doesn't work for radio.
I
like it. I had high school drop-offs where the crossing guards were, not to their credit, but the morning moms and dads dropping kids off were horrific, so they weren't in a position to dance. There was a lot of 4-letter words and pointing and shouting. But yeah, good for you. You should embrace the happiness wherever you can. If you're having a tough day and you drive by and you see somebody dancing, you're reminded, hey, there's some joy to have on your way to driving to your crying appointment.
Seriously.
Maybe you don't need to go to your crying appointment.
That you might save $30 to sit in a room and cry.
Parlor.
That, yeah.
I think that's it. That's it right there.
You solved it. More dancing.
Doing what you love, or love what you're doing.
It's infectious.
Yeah, that's the ultimate dream in life, right? Doing what you love and getting paid for it.
Yeah, but we've all had encounters like where you could tell somebody was really happy what they were doing, no matter what the task was, no matter teaching or working in a coffee shop, and it impacts you.
Sure.
Well, I love doing this. Appreciate you, Dan Bartucci, right here.
Appreciate you. We're gonna go cry.
Let's do it
alone
and dance.
I want to experience it, man. I'm telling you, I'm down. You've been tuning in to Art of Heaven News Talk. Thank you for joining us every Friday, 3:30 to 4.